I'm back again. This is going to be like a supplement, an additional features and information that I didn't give to you last time. Things that I forgot, or just other ideas that I wanted to go over. Hopefully not too long so it doesn't bore the heck out of you guys, but try to give you more details about things. I talked about the tires before. With the Touring, they offer larger tires. I think one thing Honda should do is offer the smaller size wheels on this car. I believe these are 17-inch. The EX and LX versions have 16-inch. This decreases fuel economy by having larger wheels, and a lot of people who buy this car for fuel economy would probably like the option to choose smaller wheels. You know, of course, though, if you're going for the Touring, you got to be snobby and special, so therefore you have to have the big tires. All right, one thing interesting that's been coming up concerning the headlamps on this car. These lights are fantastic. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The lights light up the road very quickly. A few people on the forums have also discussed that they've been flashed a few times. I have been flashed a few times too, and my brights were not on. I have a theory about this. The lights on this car are very, very, very bright, but they don't really shine in anybody's face unless they're in bright mode. And I think a lot of these flashes are preemptive flashes, just telling people that they think your lights are on brights, and while it's not blinding them, they're just trying to tell you that you need to turn them down. I think these people are busybodies and they need to chill out, and everything's cool, so forget that. One other thing I did say, I was talking about the hood shaking and rattling. It doesn't rattle. You don't really hear any noise from the hood, and it doesn't shake all that much. It does a little. It's just a lot of people are mentioning it because it is an aluminum hood on this car. The interesting thing is when you close it, you do tend to have to slam the hood if you do open it. If you don't, it doesn't want to close very easily, again, because it's so light. You might have to push hard. In fact, you'll find it'll even bend down and then pop back up as you close it, but don't worry too much about this. One other thing I wanted to show you is way down here. That is your radar sensor. I think its placement might not be in the best spot. We're going to look into that later. I want to discuss that a little bit later. So I'm going to pause this for a second. We're going to run to something else. One thing I wanted to mention is that some people who have purchased this car have said that when they got their car that their gas tank covers were misaligned. That's something to look into. So if you do purchase your car, make sure you check and make sure that your gas tank cover is aligned. This one does not have a capless gas tank. I don't know what the pluses or minuses are. Personally, I don't care. I can handle opening up a gas cap. I assume most people can handle that situation, so I think we can live with that. We're going to open it up and get back into this baby again. Oh, the floors are filthy. The rest of the car is not too bad. One thing I did want to show, this is an addition that I got. It's kind of hard to see right now. See that nice little insight that's lit up? That's an additional thing that you can purchase and have installed. It can cost a bit of money. I think it's very nice. I'll try to get you a shot of this car in the dark. This is just an extra thing that you can purchase if you so choose. All right, well, I didn't get it while it was starting up, but this is what it generally shows when you first get into the car. I wanted to discuss the cruise control system. Last time I had discussed, let's go ahead and start this puppy up. Last time I discussed how I tend to use this car's cruise control to drive around everywhere. Let's turn on the lane keep assist. I generally do that because it's very, whoops, gotta shut off my music. Gotta shut that off. That's something else I want to discuss too. I didn't get too deep into some of the music aspects as well, but I wanted to get into that as well. So see, my gas mileage has gotten a little bit better. All right, cruise control. As I said, sometimes, I use the cruise control to drive around pretty much everywhere, and I use the radar to look at where I'm going and so forth. And I let the car basically drive itself, keeping an eye on this center section right here where there'll be a little outline of car that will fill in as the radar sees the cars ahead of you. I also warned you that it doesn't always see the cars ahead of you. Usually I find this happens a lot when you're at a nice steady clip at, say, 35 miles per hour in regular city area. And you're driving along and there's a car stopped at a stoplight ahead of you. sometimes it will not see that car. I've gotten very close before I've hit the brakes just to see if it will engage, and I've not been brave enough to take a chance of actually hitting anybody. I'm wondering how much of this may have to do with either software or possibly the placement of the radar being way down at the bottom. A lot of these cars tend to put their radars like behind the grills or in the center of the grills, facing forward. I believe the Toyota has it behind its little emblem. Very hard to say. I don't get this problem with my Ford Fusion Energy. Now, I'm going to do a review on that car too. Tell you the pluses and minuses that I've seen on that car versus this car. I think it's important that you understand that if you are using the cruise control, you be very careful when you're using it, especially in the city, and make sure you're using it as an aid. I use it as an aid only. I use automation as an aid to help me, but I never rely on it. It's very important that you do that yourself and stick with it, guys. Don't get yourself don't get your car smushed up because of that. I think that's very important important thing to know. Now, many people don't know this, and I didn't say it before. You can turn on your you can change your cruise control settings to whether it's a standard cruise control or a non-standard cruise control. To be perfectly honest, I can't remember exactly how you do it. It is in the manual. I probably need to look it up. I know if you hold down the main button, it sure turns everything else off, but that's not really what we're looking to do here. We're looking to turn off the main cruise control. But you can switch this from a radar-based cruise control to a standard cruise control like most people used to. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, just complain to me. I hit the set button by accident. The car just can't. They just, I'm not going to get into this, but just say that the car is going to tell you what to do, whether you like it or not. And if you don't like that, then this ain't the car for you. Some people might want to turn off the automatic cruise control, mostly because sometimes you're driving on the highway, you're doing a nice steady 65 miles per hour, you're getting closer to a car, and you don't notice that you've gone down to 60 miles per hour until a bunch of people pass you. Why? Because the guy in front of you doesn't want to drive 65, he wants to drive 60. Well, this is okay for me. I'll just change lanes and the car will speed up. But some people don't like the fact that the car will, slow down and you'll end up, losing your place in line. And it's a little complex. But if you want to turn it off and just run the cruise control like normal, you can do that in this car. You are not bound to stick the cruise control in the way, with the radar. It's really up to you. Now, while we're here, I want to point out some other things that people have found have been problems with their insights, or at least have mentioned on the forums. Some people are talking about a crackling noise in the vents. I haven't had this problem, I'm happy to say. I haven't heard what the fix is. I'm sure it's very minor. Usually, sometimes you get little crackles and little buzzes and shakes inside the cars. Normally I drive with my music playing loud, so I don't hear them, but there is one that other people have also mentioned. It seems like the seatbelt retention mechanisms. I think back here, kind of hard to see. Back there, your height adjustment, though, I sometimes get a little bit of a rattle from there. I haven't really gone too deep into it, but it is something you want to keep in mind when driving the car so you know of what issues you might run into. Just things to look into. No car is perfect. This car is not perfect. It comes close as far as I'm concerned. But I like people to know all the things that, to look out for when you're driving this car, and things to, make sure are fixed in this car. Also, I told you I had parking sensors. I'll show you what those look like on the outside. Most people have seen parking sensors. They're little circles. Those are installed by the dealer. It's a full day's job. Very expensive to install. Make sure you have a good dealer who's doing it, because they're drilling into your bumpers. And, this is not something you can just run in and have done. You have to set up to get done for your parking sensors. They do tend to give off false warnings sometimes when backing up, especially going up hills. But you get used to them, and I find them very useful overall. So I'm not all that concerned with it, and I think it's well worth the money if you can afford it. Again, you're going to pay about $1,000 or a little bit more than $1,000 to have them installed. The parts aren't horrendously expensive, but the labor is immense on it. Now back to the main system. I don't think I ever showed you the email. I don't even know if it's going to work right now, so we're just going to get it. I never showed you that function. It does tell me when email comes in. It pops and lets me know. And you can basically say, here we go. We got some emails that came in. You know, people call me. There's Hemorrhoid. Oh, that's one of those... that's one of those guys saying they were part of a rebel group and they need me to send money and they'll send me millions of dollars. I just love those emails. They're a lot of fun. But, you know, basically, you know, you can open up your email. I guess this is a safe one to open. Who knows? I mean, I guess they want me to, you know, kids eat free. You can play it or reply. I don't know what the replies are. I never even tried to reply on this. Yeah, it basically either you can create a message by typing in the message and sending it. So you can literally do your email. Can't do it while driving. You can only do these canned messages while driving. It will read the email to you, and it does a reasonably good job at it. So let's get back home. Again, another reason to enjoy the home button on this car. Now, a few people have mentioned issues with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I know Android Auto can be a bit buggy, period. I've had buggy problems with Android Auto. It seems to run reasonably well on this car. However, I have had at least one issue where I've used this little button down here. Now, as I said, if you tap it once without holding it for any long period of time, it goes directly to... Honda's little voice sensing. And Honda's voice sensing actually works pretty well. You know, you press it and, you know, pretty much jumps right to it.
Pardon?
Yeah, cancel. Let's see if it'll cancel.
You can use your voice to control phone.
Yeah, shut up. But there's various things. I mean, I'm basically going to tell them to call someone that's on my call list for my phone that's plugged into the thing, and it works fine. Now, you tap it once, it goes to that. What's nice is when you tap it, and if the heater is blowing at maximum, it will lower the heater speed, and I believe it also lowers the volume of your radio. Something funny, though, when the parking sensors go off, it doesn't lower the volume of your radio, which is very strange. I'm going to check with Honda and see if it's supposed to be that way. And yes, this video is going to be long. Ugh, I can't stop talking. I'm sorry. I love the car. I like people to know what's going on. But that is a nice little touch. Now, with the Android Auto, I found that if you hold it down and you have Android Auto hooked up, it will go to Google, and you can use Google's, you know, voice messaging, you know, voicing, saying, you know, Google find me this, Google find me that. I have found every now and then that it'll get jammed into that voice message. It won't keep listening to you. But when you go to the screen, instead of seeing the regular screen, you'll still see the Google, it'll be a little dimmed with the little Google thing on the top looking like it's listening to you. You can't get out of that without unplugging the phone and plugging it back in, or shutting the car off and shutting it on. A bug, either it's due to Honda or it's due to Android Auto. Could be either. Android Auto is buggy anyway. I don't care what people says. Look at it, see? Told me. New email from Energy at CN Brown. Yes, I bought oil from CN Brown. They gave me a good deal. Oil's expensive. I think I'm going to switch to gas. It's just too much money. Now, I did talk about the radio system. You notice when I turned on the car, the radio went blasting. When I turned off the car, I had the radio paused. This is something very annoying that Honda really needs to fix with this car. It needs to remember the state of the radio. Let's say I want to call someone. Now, it'll automatically stop the music when I'm trying to call on the phone, which is fine. However, if I say pause it ahead of time, then I make the call and then I hang up the call, the music immediately comes back on full blast. It should not do this. It should stay in pause mode and let me unpause it. This is a bug, in my opinion, or we could say it's a feature. It is not a feature. It is a mistake, and they need to fix that. I do not like that. Now I'm going to turn the radio back on. We're going to have to pause it real quick. We're going to pause it. Oh, for heaven's sake, stop that. See, I'm not so quick on this. One thing I did not go over the browsing capabilities of this radio. It's actually got a pretty good browsing system. You know, you can basically look artists and so forth. You can go by, by the letters and so forth. And it's pretty good about finding things and so forth. What it isn't good is that, let's say you choose something, and let's say you're just going on and you're going through all the songs, and let's say you've scrolled through a whole bunch of stuff, you've gotten down, you found halfway down, you've got, the first half of the music you don't want to listen to, and you found a song, boom, you play it, and then the music's, coming to an end, and you want to go back and look at it again. Well, when you go back, it starts back at the very beginning. It doesn't start back where you left off. I don't know whether it's better that it does that or better that it doesn't do that. Personally, I'd like it to go back to where I was. I could always hit a home button or something. That would be nice. As I said, you can look based on folders and so forth. But I think this is just not very good design aspects. And I think that really needs to be changed. That's something they really need to reconsider. It really should remember your state, just like it should remember your state when you got the music paused. Hang on a second. I'm having a brain fart, but then again, that's pretty much, my life. Okay, we're back. One other thing that people have noticed, this system will crash every once in a while. Now, I don't think this is completely abnormal for these systems. They are, after all, either Android or special design based. Most of them, I think, are Android based. And, they can be buggy. And, I don't think they hire the best programmers to do this. Although I think Honda did a great job on this design. I think this design is very clean and very easy to look at. The Ford, not so much. And I'm going to show you Ford Sync 3. It's got some good things on it, but basically its design is about as ugly as sin gets. One other thing, and this is kind of a ridiculous thing to mention, I had some dash parts replaced. I told you these dash parts are not very expensive, but very hard to replace. Don't scratch up here. You scratch this, and all of this vent and everything behind here has to be replaced, and that's hours of work, and you're going to take a gun and shoot yourself in the head when you see how much it costs, and you don't want to do it yourself. Well, maybe you do, but I prefer to have the dealer do it because if there's a rattle afterwards, I can be all over their case. If there's a rattle afterwards when I do it, there's another $200-300 worth of work. So don't scratch that. Yes, non sequitur kind of came out of the blue, but I did want you guys to know about that. But as I said, there are crashes that can happen sometimes. In fact, 2 days after I made my last video, the thing crashed while I was driving. Everything kind of froze up and it rebooted itself, and it fixes itself each and every time. Not a real big deal, but definitely something that you should understand. I'm sure there'll be some updates every now and then. I don't know how much updates they're going to do. I don't know how committed Honda is to this updating. We will definitely find that out. And one other thing about the cup holders. When you put drinks in there, let's say I drink sodas. Yes, I'm an unhealthy person. I like drinking my sodas. They're Fresca, by the way, and Fresca kicks butt. Anyone who doesn't like Fresca, well, you're just going to have to go away. But Fresca, I put a can in there, I drink it, I put it down, I drive around, and you'll hear like a little rattle. It doesn't sound like the can rattling. It actually sounds like you're having a rattle in some of the trim somewhere in the car. Be forewarned, you start hearing rattles and stuff like that. Always look to see if there's anything in here, including a can. Even if it doesn't sound like it, it's going to sound like it's coming from behind you or whatever. I just bring that up because that's happened to me on multiple occasions. And I like people not to get caught. There is something that I heard called a cup hero. I haven't looked into it. People on the forums have talked about it. Supposedly, I don't know, I think it either makes it like felty or foamy or something in there, makes it so things fit better so they don't rattle around. So that's something you also might want to consider. Some of you saw my subwoofer back there. I'm going to show you real quick what we did to hook up the subwoofer. And then I think we're just about done. I just wanted to make this like a little extra, just a few extra things I wanted to talk about. So hang on tight. While we're out here, I thought I'd give you guys a quick look at the parking sensors. There's one right there. I think all of you have seen parking sensors. Not really something very special to look at, but just in case you were wondering what they looked like on the car, they are on there. And when they do it, they have to literally drill into your car. It's pretty expensive, as I said, but I think it's well worth it. Really up to you. One other thing that I did also add to this car, I added puddle lights. I'm going to try to get a shot of this car in the dark. The puddle lights are very cool. They put like 4 spotlights underneath the car on each side. When you unlock the car, they light up the ground, I guess to make sure you don't step on a puddle. But let's be honest, anyone who's putting them in, they're putting them in there because they want the car to look cool. And it does look cool. I also put in the ambient light of the car. Essentially lights up in here, right in here. Also lights up down here and down here. It's white, which kind of disappointed me. I was kind of hoping for a color, maybe like a blue or something like that. It's also not particularly bright, but it's nice to add there. Would I have done it again? Probably, because I like all the doodads and gadgets, but it is pricey. Again, there's that inside thing. That's all lit up. It's beautiful. And that's something I do recommend. I think it's really nice. So we're going to go back to the subwoofer here. Now this is going to be a little bit more difficult to show, but this is how we hooked up the subwoofer into the system. Now, with the Touring, you do get a subwoofer, but quite frankly, it's kind of small. I'm going to try to move this over, like that. I try to give you a view, and no, you can't see a damn thing. And I can't see a damn thing in there. And quite frankly, I don't know how to turn this on. But basically, ran the line out of the subwoofer. We disconnected the subwoofer, essentially hooked the line into something called an audio control. It's a little mini amp, not too powerful. Ran the line to the battery, which, by the way, is between the center console, underneath the center console. Very strange place for a battery, and a very expensive battery, so don't kill your battery. And I like this little setup. It's not a lot of power, but it does add a good thump to the car. Makes it sound pretty good, and I think they did a pretty good job on it. Putting it back in order is going to be a little rough. Have it set about 80 hertz, 80 kilohertz or whatever, and have it turned up maximum gain. And you can pretty much, when you hook it and feed it directly off of here, I've got no hum or any hiss or any background response. So it's something I do recommend, and it does work. If you're using if you're not having if you don't have a Touring model, then you don't have a sub in the unit. In which case, you could probably hook into the main speakers themselves. Although, quite frankly, if you want to go that far, at that point, what I would generally recommend you do, Audio Control also makes these little items. You can find them on their site. Those items, essentially, what they do is they can hook through the inputs. Actually, they're through the speaker wires that come out of the main amp of the actual car itself, and essentially goes into this little box. And this little box gives you RCA output, so you can go into your own amps. So literally, you can go through. You can still keep all your steering wheel controls. You can still keep all your controls on your computer without fooling around with the system, but you'll be able to use your own amps so you can shape your music. That's something I might actually do later on. And so you can really boost up the sound. Now, with hybrids, I have heard you have to be careful how much power you pull and so forth. You can also hurt your gas mileage. So this is something you have to look into. So you need to make sure that whoever does this is a real pro. Since I didn't it last time, that is the subwoofer that's built in. You got your left, your right, and your sub. I don't know how large that is, 6 inches maybe. Essentially, that's the main plug for it that was plugged out. And we ran a line off of it into that amp, and then ran the amp into the battery, and it works well. As I said, some people have asked, was there any hiss from the automatic noise canceling and all that kind of stuff? Nope. I had no problem whatsoever, and I highly recommend it. It works very well. It's an easy way. Sorry, I cut myself off. It's an easy way to add a little bit of thump to your unit. Also, I recommend keeping that sub disconnected. There's just way too much rattle that you can get from back there. Plus, that sub can't really handle it. Once you put some real sound into it, it tends to bottom out very quickly. So you can see the snow's already starting. We're due for a big snowstorm pretty soon. Well, I've talked my mouth off. I have no other ideas of what to say. I think the next thing I'm going to do, unless you guys have questions, nobody sent me any questions, and most of the people on the forums who have watched this, they already know who to talk to. I mean, they're much smarter people on the forums than me who can answer questions better than I can on these cars. I'm just telling you basically what I've seen about the auto cruise control. I really do have some concerns about the radar being so far down in that car. And it does not see cars all the time. I've had it happen at least 3 times since I last talked to you. Driving 35 miles per hour, pretty much on a straight road, coming up to a light, cars sitting right in front of you, and I let it get as close as possible and never sees the car. So the radar never engages the brakes, and I have to hit the brakes. Again, too scared to get too close. But like I said, use it as a tool. Don't put your life in its hands. We've heard of Teslas having crashes. You got to remember, we're dealing with software. This is still very new technology across the board and how well it works. If you guys have any questions, please feel free You can email me at verdier, VERDIER 400 at gmail.com. But it doesn't seem like this is really, I'm not getting all that many questions. Actually, I'm not getting any questions. It's not really much of a concern. If you have anything else you want to know, let me know. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it helps you out in understanding your purchases. Love this car. It is awesome. Take care. Promise, guys, I was going to give you a nighttime look at this car. I was going to show you mainly the puddle lights, give you an idea what they look like, so you can see just how cool they really look. So we're going to lock up the car. Also want you to see what the car looks like with its lights on, so you know, if you're looking to purchase the car, you can see an idea. Let me show you what the puddle lights look like. You unlock the car and they light up the ground. That is absolutely beautiful. I don't care what you think, man. Even if they're not useful to you, they're very cool. So they're great for coolness factor. And to give you an idea on these headlamps, these are the headlamps. Well, of course, it turned off. So we will lock it and unlock it. And it gives you an idea what the lights look like with your fog lamps. Fog lamps are a little extra if you don't get the touring model. I think they're about $500, but definitely worth it for the look of the car. We're going to get into the car and I'm going to give you an idea what the ambient lights look like and so forth. And there the lights are shutting off. That's just like essentially like your welcome lights. So hang on tight and we're going to look at some of the ambient lights. Another view of the bottom lights, and they've shut off. Of course, if you don't hang out by the car soon enough, then they will shut off. It's ice all down here, so you'll excuse me if I walk real slow. Open it up, and that's the inside, as I was saying, and how it lights up on the side is real nice. Very, very pretty. So we're going to go around to the other side. I'm going to let you see what the ambient light looks like on the inside that I loaded in, just in case you guys are thinking about getting that. Okay, we're now back inside the car, and it's really kind of hard to see the ambient light. I don't know how well it's going to show up. It doesn't look so good on this screen. But there you can see there's the door handle, and there are the lights. Down on the bottom, that's your cup holder area. I don't even think it's showing up. And there is the floor, kind of lit up. It's not bad. You can actually control it with a rheostat right over here, right next to your trip control computer, to give it brightness, actually. Let's see if we can turn it up a little lighter. There we go. That lightens it up just a little bit more when I put it at maximum light. But I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what it looks like. I'm going to put this lights back down to normal. Otherwise, you know, you die of brightness in here. I just wanted you guys to get an idea. I promised I would give you a look at it so you can get an idea of what it looks like. As you can say, the headlamps are fan-freaking-tastic. They light up everything. One last note, again, if you guys have any questions, Verdier 400, VERDIER 400, gmail.com. And if you happen to be in the main area, give me a ring. Maybe we can get together if you're an enthusiast and we can talk about the car and whatever. I'm actually a pretty cool dude. Well, no, I'm not really a cool dude, but either way, if you got anything to say, you want to do anything, just give me a ring. Take care, and I hope this guy shows you guys what you guys wanted to look at. Bye-bye.